in this post-apocalyptic world where the H5G9 virus has killed more than half of humankind and normal kids are no longer being born. Kids are being born as half human, half animal hybrids. Only one man can save us. One man, and that man is Big Man. Hey guys, Shalami here. Welcome to the Binge Zone. On today's video, we're talking about season 1 of the Netflix original series, Sweet Tooth. Now, if you have not seen the season, spoilers ahead. For those of you who have, let's get into it. And don't forget, guys, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's just dive into Sweet Tooth. Sweet Tooth follows the titular character, Sweet Tooth, aka Gus, who is a half human, half deer hybrid who lives in this post-apocalyptic world in which this virus called the H5G9 virus was released into the world, and it killed almost half of all human life, and humans can no longer conceive regular human babies. Now kids are being born half human, half animal hybrids, and Gus is the first half human, half animal hybrid we met. He's half human, half reindeer. And the season starts off where we're introduced to Gus and his father, Pubba. And during the onset of the pandemic, while Dr. Singh and other characters are scrambling to deal with this, Pubba takes Gus into the Yellowstone Park and he raises him for 10 years away in isolation from the rest of humanity. And in their isolation, he teaches Gus about the outside world, but his own spin on it. So Gus never had any interaction with anyone outside of his father in this enclosed space in Yellowstone Park. Now, Pubba's doing this for the safety of Gus because, as typical in a post-apocalyptic world where a virus is spreading, we as humans, and I have to say before we dive into that, this show was created, the pilot was done in 2016, but because of the time it was released, it hits close to home because of the H5G9 virus, which is similar to the coronavirus pandemic that's been happening over the past year, where you have to wear masks, temperature checks, all that. But aside from that, and aside from the fact that it hits close to home, this show really encapsulates what it means to be human and empathize with other characters, because Gus grew up in isolation because of man being afraid of what's happening. This virus is a pandemic that pretty much is wiping out life on Earth, but the half human, half animals who are being born are immune to it, and humans, of course, are afraid, and they start hunting down and killing these hybrids. That's why Pubba took Gus into the forest and he raised them away from humans, and he taught and raised Gus to be a sweet, loving boy. And I have to say, in a world that is so dire and dark and bleak, Gus is a ray of hope throughout this entire first season, because as the first episode goes on, Gus grows up and we see him learning about just how to be a good person. That is the beacon of hope that this world really needs, because in a world in which you don't know who has your back, who's spreading the virus, who's hiding hybrid children, and just everyone living in a kill or be killed society, having someone remind us of our innate goodness is always a beacon of hope. And this being a post-apocalyptic world is different than most post-apocalyptic shows, because in this show, this is more of a fantastical fantasy type of post-apocalyptic world in which Gus is the protagonist and we have to follow his adventures. So by the end of the first episode, Pubba is killed because Gus ventured outside the park and humans found out about him and they came to get him, and Pubba was infected with the H5G9 virus and dies. As the first episode is about to end and Gus is about to get caught by poachers, the hero, the savior, Big Man shows up, and Big Man saves Gus. Now, the character of Big Man is a very interesting character in itself, because Big Man has been out in the world. He's been living, surviving, doing things he's not proud of. And it comes in stark contrast with Gus, who's innocent and pure. So you have someone who's tainted by society and someone whose society has not touched. And it's like a clash of ideals, a clash of identity. And they form a father-son dynamic, or a guardian slash, what's the person being guarded called? A guardian. The guardian is the person who's watching them. So a guardee. Let me know in the comment section below. But they form that bond and they go out into the world together, and Gus is now learning about the harsh realities of the world. But at the same time, Big Man is learning to trust and love and be hopeful again, which is very interesting, because in this world and in this season specifically, we're following three different storylines. We're following Gus and Big Man's storyline. We're also following Dr. Singh and his wife's storyline. And we're also following the story of Amy and the Sanctuary storyline. So these three storylines are going to intersect in the finale, but each of them brings a different aspect of this world. In Dr. Singh's case, we see how life is for regular people. And Dr. Singh, who was on the front lines of this pandemic, his wife suffers from the H5G9 virus, and he's been hiding that for 10 years. And him and the previous doctor at his town are treating her with a sort of vaccine or shot that represses the virus. So we have people, and it shows society post-apocalyptic. We see this community that Dr. Singh lives in and how they live close-knit, but at the same time, it looks all happy-go-lucky on the outside, but then you have the neighbors who really just are out there for their own survivals. They're almost worse than the poachers who are hunting the hybrids, because they're your friends. It's all peachy keen until one of them has the virus, and you see how nasty they get. They tie you in saran wrap in your own house and burn it down, killing you. And it's like, whoa. No compassion, no humanity, no empathy at all. And you see how the world has to change, and how Dr. Singh, who is a doctor by trade and who is one of the nicest guys, as you can see throughout the show, how he changes to adapt and survive in society. And you see the toll that a post-apocalyptic pandemic has on humans, as well as whether you're good or bad. You see how it can change you, how dire situations bring out your true colors. And what really makes Dr. Singh's story so tragic is the fact that his wife is the one who has the virus, and she's his Jane Doe that they're experimenting on. And we come to find out the secrets behind his vaccine or his shot, whatever you want to call it, is the fact that they're dissecting hybrids and they're using hybrid bone marrow as the basis, or the secret sauce as they call it, which is wild as fuck, in order to treat and repress the virus. Because the hybrids and the virus are two sides of one coin. They both came out at the same time. Moving on from Dr. Singh and his story, we're also following Amy. And Amy created a sanctuary with her daughter, or her adopted daughter, Pigtails, Wendy, who is half human, half pig. It's the cutest shit ever. Like, this show being as dark and apocalyptic as it is, some of these hybrids are so cute. Gus, Pigtail. I'm on the fence with Bobby because, like, Bobby's more animal than human. But besides that, following Amy and the Sanctuary, we see how these hybrids are children and they just need a place to live. And the fact that society is hunting them down really goes to show just how bad and downright despicable humankind can be, especially General Abbott, who creates this army called the Last Men. And they are the ones who pretty much control the area. They patrol everything. They hunt down hybrids. They're trying to find a way to stop the virus, but also putting General Abbott in command. And it reminds me of the War for the Planet of the Apes, the final Planet of the Apes movie with Caesar, and when you had Woody Harrelson, the bald guy who's like the general. Like, why is it that these generals always have to be bald? But all these different storylines just show us different aspects of this post-apocalyptic world. And ultimately, at the end, when the storylines intersect, we get to learn a lot, not only about Gus, but also about the origins of the virus and just what is going on in this world. And ultimately, we come to find out the truth about Gus, because throughout this season, Gus is heading to Colorado to find his mom. But when we finally get there, we come to find out the truth that Gus was not born. Gus was created. This whole season, we thought the virus was some divine virus that was just brought about by nature trying to control the earth. But ultimately, it was a man-made virus that they found in Alaska and experimented on, kind of like the coronavirus in Wuhan. We're not gonna get into that. But we found out that Gus was a test tube baby. And the thing that makes it also crazy is the fact that Gus is the most human of all the hybrids, because he has the antlers in the ears and that's about it. And there has been no other sighting of a half deer, half human child throughout this entire story. So Gus is the oldest of the hybrids. He is the most intelligent because he was raised by Pubba, taught to speak, taught to understand, and the other hybrids are too busy being hidden to actually learn anything. and actually learn to complete sentences besides Gus and Pigtail, which goes to show just the lengths of how society has failed these kids and how these kids are supposedly perhaps the next step of human evolution, but the previous society cannot let that go. So it becomes a clash. And as we get to the finale and we find out that Gus's real name is actually Genetic Unit Series 1, he's a test tube baby. And when Gus finds that out, he goes crazy, he goes bonkers, he runs out. And then we come to find out more about Big Man's story. And the reason Big Man became the way he was and Gus had to reopen his heart was because Big Man, at the onset of the pandemic, his wife gave birth to a hybrid. Big Man ran away, hesitated, but Dr. Singh, in his kind words, actually brought Big Man back into going back after his family, but his family was gone. They took them. And they've been taking and abducting kids throughout the series. And you see, like, as the show goes on, the different episodes are at different points in time. So when Gus was young and the airplane flew over, dropped the sanctuary flyers, that was like a precursor to what was happening. So all these different storylines are happening at different timelines and they intersect in the finale. And Gus has been captured by General Abbott and the Last Men. And Big Man was left for dead. Bear finally contacted Gus's mother, and she is in Alaska at the site in which where they found the original specimen for the virus. So all these storylines left a cliffhanger of direness, and if the show would have ended that way, it would have been like, damn, this truly is a post-apocalyptic world. However, the end left us more hopeful. Gus was introduced to more kids like him. He's never met another hybrid into the finale. And you see that these kids are scared, they're afraid, and they hug each other. But at the same time, there's a level of hope that engulfs the finale, even though you see Dr. Singh about to dissect a half human, half chameleon. You see that, but you see Gus embracing a family that he created, because family in itself isn't who you're born with, because we know Gus wasn't born, he was created. But a family is what you make of it. And him finding these others, and you had Dr. Singh and him starting a relationship, and then the fact that the character of Bear contacts Birdie, which is Gus's mother, and she's in Alaska looking for a way to stop the virus, which if the virus is stopped, I feel as though humanity as a whole will accept these hybrids, because they're just blaming the hybrids for the cause of it. But it's not necessarily the hybrids that are the cause of the virus, because the virus was found before the hybrids came out. It's human experimentation that created it. And if she can reverse it, she can actually stop the H5G9 virus from spreading. Who knows? Maybe General Abbott will stand down. But also, because of what we saw with Pigtail, and we saw that even though she was taken and she is Bear's sister and she was alive, it leaves hope that Big Man's kid is also alive as well, because we never saw them die. And you know how TV shows are. If you don't see them die, they're not dead. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. That is season 1 of Sweet Tooth Explained. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this season in the comment section below. Did you like the show? Did you not like it? What were your ups and downs? Let me know in the comment section below, guys. And until next time, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, binge on.